Good evening. Looks like we're waiting for let me see, 2, 4, 6, 7. It looks like we're looking for one more commissioner to join. Is that right?
Chair Brooks, we're just waiting on Commissioner Johnson, correct? Oh,
I
here she
just
is.
promoted her. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson's asking us to enable his video, but I think you should be able to do it yourself. You can't?
I think there's something in the settings. I think Commissioner Palmer has to do it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Should be enabled, but
So once you're able to give everyone video access, then we'll get started.
I think I have to make everyone a co-host, so I'll just flag that commissioners should leave the logistical details to Commissioner Yates and myself, but I will make everyone co-host. Not sure why this isn't working. It worked last time. Everyone has been granted co-host permission, which should allow the video feed. Not sure why it wasn't working, but that should do it.
Okay. Then with that, we will call the meeting to order. Would you please take the roll, Commissioner Palmer?
Yeah, one second. We have a commissioner here who wasn't going to be in attendance, so 1 second.
Right.
Chair Brooks, are you ready for roll call?
I am.
Okay, 4B01 is not present. 4B02 present. 4B03
Present.
4B04
Present.
4B05
Present.
4B06
Present.
4B07
Present.
4B08
Present.
4B09
Present.
4B10.
Present.
We have one commissioner not present, and we have a quorum to proceed.
All right, thank you. I think as everyone knows, because we've done this many months now, you can use the raise your hand function and wait to be acknowledged if you are going to ask a question. And if you are on the phone, you can dial *9, let us know that you have a question. And once you're acknowledged, then we'll give you the opportunity to speak. With that, we will move right into the consideration and approval of the April 2024 regular public meeting. Before we submit the agenda for consideration, I have to point out that presentation from the mayor's office about the budget proposal was listed as tentative, and it is in fact being removed. There is not a representative from the mayor's office here today specifically to do a budget presentation. We invited them We've done this every year for the last several years, but unfortunately, there's no one here this evening at our request. And so we'll be removing that item from the agenda. With that, I make a motion. I'm sorry, with that, does anyone else have a change or an addition to the agenda? Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's every hand. Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to the approval of the March 2024 regular public meeting minutes. Those meetings were distributed in advance of tonight's meeting and are listed on our website. Does anybody have a question or concern about the minutes as presented? Nope. Going once, going twice. Okay, then the minutes are accepted by acclamation. There are no changes to the minutes. That takes us to the treasurer's report and the quarterly financial report for the second quarter of 2024. Commissioner Yates.
Yes, the quarterly financial report is available on the website, but was posted after our internal deadline for doing so. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and walk through our quarterly financial report. Give me just a moment to pull it up. All right, as you can see, we had a checking balance of $54,309.63 to end the quarter, after $2,043.18 in disbursements in the last quarter. Give me just to move this bar so I can see what I'm doing. All right, and then here is the check register. As per our practice, once this is approved, it'll post on our website and our financial materials. I'm make a motion to request that the commission approve the second quarter 2024 financial report as presented here tonight.
Does anyone have any question or concerns? Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's every hand. Thank you. All right, so then we'll move into commissioner updates and we'll just go in numerical order, starting with 4B02.
Oh, yes, sorry. I was awaiting 4B01 without realizing that I'm the first one on the list for tonight. Just wanted to provide a quick update from Spring Cleanup Week, which was a week of cleanups that several commissioners and other organizations held over spring break week, which was 9 cleanups. We collected over 212 bags of trash and had over 100 volunteers. I see that we have a friend here from Food and Friends. They came to one of the cleanups and really turned out and collected many, many bags of litter. We're extremely grateful for the collaboration with our neighborhood groups and schools and the many students. We had over 20 students who participated and received community service hours. It was a wonderful event. And I'll note for my single member district, my regular monthly meeting the first Saturday of the month, cleanup at 10 a.m. The first Saturday, May 4th, will take place. May 4th at 10 a.m. By the Safeway on Piney Branch. We'll meet at Underwood and Piney Branch. And then one more event I wanted to flag is that the Commission's Executive Committee is hosting our second annual Earth Day Fair on May 18th from, let me just make sure I get the details right here, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Tacoma Elementary. This is going to build on the efforts of last year's event, which took place at Whittier Elementary School. We will have government agencies, nonprofits, and neighborhood groups tabling. We will have several volunteer activities, ways you can contribute to the school's garden by weeding, planting, and installing rain barrels. And we'll have some educational programming around the school's River Smart Garden, among other things. So please check that out. I will provide a link to the event. Please share it. We welcome neighborhood school groups to participate if there's an environmental club or other set of students that are active in the environmental realm, please share that information. Thank you. I'll share the link for that.
Thank you. 4B03.
Good evening. I just want to echo what Commissioner Palmer said about the cleanup week. I think it was a total success. I thank everyone for coming out and organizing. I know Commissioner Palmer was dead set on that 200 bags, so I think we did get it. So, but it was a joy that week. And just to reiterate, I did receive the same message about the garden work day on May 18th. So come out, can support, and that's all I have.
Thank you. 4B04.
No additional updates, Chair.
4B05.
Hey, everybody. Just the one thing I'll mention is the Walmart carts that continue to plague the neighborhood. Commissioner Palmer, thank you for continuing to flag those things over to the point of contact we have. They have started to become responsive. They found an issue with the magnetic control that they have for the carts, and they ordered some parts to replace and fix that. So hopefully that'll curtail a little bit of it. And then there's been some communication with the Walmart corporate on trying to get additional resources over to have them conduct their own sweeps of the area. So promising development. I'm not going to say it's resolved by any means. Continue to watch it, and just thanks for everybody, residents included, for flagging these things. Continue to let me know if you have a particular trouble spot, and we'll try to address it. Thanks.
4B06.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to echo thanks to Commissioner Palmer for coming out to the cleanup on the 21st. It was really amazing event. We went all through the park. We went all up and down Kansas Avenue. I don't even know how many bags of trash we wound up collecting. I can't even remember, but it was a lot. We had students from Coolidge come out. We had students from Shepherd come out and get volunteer hours. So really appreciative of that. My next single member district meeting will be on May 6th at 7 p.m. And I'll put a link in the chat to more information about that and the agenda. And also on May 18th from 10 to 11, I will be having a community cleanup along 3rd and Madison Street. We usually take the entire length of 3rd Street between Madison to Peabody, and then 3rd to 5th Street. And again, I will be offering volunteer hours for those events as well. And that's, oh, one other thing that just came to my radar tonight. If you know of any vacant or blighted properties within the boundaries of 4B06, please let me know. MPD is trying to get ahead of the curve and being proactive on making sure that those properties are boarded up to avoid any summertime malfeasance. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. 4B07.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. Real quick, we're going to be doing a community walk on Wednesday, May 1st at 11 a.m. The location is the starting location is the intersection of North Capitol Street Northwest and Sheridan Street Northwest. And we're going to be walking with MPD and some various agencies to talk about some issues that area has been experiencing lately. We're also going to be doing a meeting on May 13th. This is in regards to BZA case 21101. Again, May 13th, 6 p.m. The location has not been determined yet, but it's going to be with the applicant for 245 Peabody Street, as well as neighbors are invited as well. Next up, I have a newsletter that's going to come out. And then finally, we're going to have the 4B07 SMD meeting on May 27th, the fourth Saturday of each month. It's going to be at Lamond Rec Center at 10 a.m. Our guest is to be determined, but it may be someone from MPD. I'm not sure yet. And it's all from
Got it.
me.
Thank you. So I would be next on 4B08. I've received calls about dumping behind the CBS. There are currently 2 mattresses there. When the call started, there was 1. Now there's 2. I've submitted 311 requests, as well as contacted DPW directly. Not been successful yet in getting them removed. I've also contacted DGS, DPW, and DDOT about the grass at the intersection of North Capitol and New Hampshire Avenue and Kennedy Street Northwest. Every organization says it's not their responsibility or it's somebody else's responsibility. And as a result, there's a resolution on the agenda tonight to get that resolved. It's a systemic issue. It's not always been an issue, but it has been an issue for maybe the last 3 summers. And so somewhere along the line, somebody has dropped the ball and we need to pick it back up again. So we'll be working on that. Since our last meeting, I had a community meeting with residents that were demanding another meeting about 71 Kennedy Street. We've also attended the zoning commission hearing with regard to 71 Kennedy Street. And there's a resolution on the agenda tonight in support of the request for the special relief. I guess I'll talk about that more when we get to that line item. I also wanted to point out that there was another community cleanup outside of our week of cleanups. This past weekend, the South Manor Neighborhood Association held a cleanup at North Capitol and Longfellow and worked along that block. It was also very successful, and several bags of trash, numerous bags of trash were picked up at that location as well. And I'll stop there and I will hand it off to Commissioner Thompson for B09.
Good evening. Good to be here. Really quickly, I just want to do a quick update or recap of what has happened in April in terms of 4B09 and where I've been representing the community. On April 8th, of course, I was at the Lamont Riggs Citizens Association meeting. Thank you for all those who make that meeting go so well. On April 11th, again, kudos to Chair Jocelyn Johnson. I was at the Mini Commission on Aging. And then on April 17th, kudos to MPD who came to our community for a public safety walk. We walked from Riggs and Chillum all the way down to Riggs in South Dakota where the Chick-fil-A is. I learned a lot about what's happening in our community. Thank you to Commander Nikki Lavenhouse who was there. Also, Officer Hamrick and his community outreach team. So I just want to make sure community members are staying tuned because there's a lot happening and we want to be ahead of it and we want to make sure we're realizing the real potential of Riggs Park. Thank you.
You're welcome. 4B10.
Hi, so there's just been a lot of concern about safety in my SMD. So I'm going to be holding a community meeting TBD. I've just recently got calls about it literally before this meeting. And I also encourage people to look into Commissioner Johnson is starting the Community Safety and Support Committee. And you can fill out something, sign up to be part of this committee. And I think it'd be helpful for a lot of people in my SMD who are concerned about safety. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we will move into community concerns. Again, you can use the raise your hand feature. You can dial *9 if you're on the phone, and you have to wait until you are acknowledged. You will have 1 minute to speak. And Commissioner Yates, you'll cover the chat, and Commissioner Smith, you'll cover the timer. Okay. Commissioner,
Promoted Brenda already.
thank you. I was going to suggest.
And I'll keep working on people one at a time.
Okay.
Mr. Garnes declined to be promoted. I'll remind people you have to accept your promotion to be able to speak in the meeting. So.
Commissioner Parks, are you there? If you are there, you're muted because we're not hearing you.
I'm here, but I think I
Okay.
just put my hand up by mistake.
Oh, well,
I'm sorry. Hello,
That's okay.
everyone.
that's all right. Commissioner Yates, next.
Brad Garnis was next, and then Tim Harkin, Chair.
Mhm. Mr. Garnes, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I am. I'm not sure if you guys are able to hear me or not. I'm doing a little grocery shopping. It appears you guys are going to proceed forward, uh, ignoring the wonderful people who live in this community who come and we've asked you guys to reconsider passing a resolution. There's a reason why there's requirements for lot line setbacks and for courtyards. It's so that people have a better quality of life. I would urge you guys to only permit projects that you like your own family to live into. And that's all I really have to say. We've seen it in writing. We've seen the communities come forward. If you guys continue down this path, well, it's your decision, but you're on the wrong side of history. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. Commissioner Yates?
Tim Harkin should already be promoted.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Tim Harkin of 122, and I'm also wanted to talk about 71 Kennedy. I know a lot has been said, a lot has been written, but I just, as a mixed-use development, Kennedy Street has seen a lot of development in the last decade that has been focused towards residential only. And as that has happened, there's been a decrease of commercial spaces. So, there's so many residential units on the way. And while we're fulfilling the needs of the city in terms of providing housing, when all those people finally do move into these spaces, we've eliminated the spaces for retail that would serve their needs of food and shopping. And so I would just encourage that for this project and for future projects that keeping a mixed use neighborhood and encouraging retail onto the ground floor is seen as a priority.
Thank you for your comment. Any other hands, Commissioner Yates?
I promoted Lisa. I'd ask that she identify herself. She's in as Lisa iPad.
I'm sorry. My name is Lisa Jolly. Can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Miss Jolly.
Hi, Allison. I just have a comment about the blighted property next door to me. It's been that way for a few years now, a long time. And the plywood is beginning to fall down into my yard. I feel like I shouldn't have to be the one to go up and reinstall plywood so it's not in my yard. It's been an eyesore for a few years, so much so that I don't even want to live here anymore. It's very discouraging. Been dealing with this for a very, very long time, and enough is enough. Even the back alley, the plywood is coming down, so it's wide open. So that leads to anybody being able to come in, do whatever they want to do. And it's rodents. I mean, I don't even let my dog out back anymore. So it's very discouraging. And I know Kennedy Street or, 71 Kennedy or whatever is up and coming, but at least keep it legit until you do something with the property. I mean, you're just letting it sit there and rot. So that was my comment. Thank you for letting me share.
Miss Jolly,
Yes.
Sophia Tacola from the mayor's office is on this call as well. And so when she's elevated to speak, I'm going to ask for her assistance again in addressing the issue. I'm also going to send another email to Donald Sullivan, who works at the Department of Buildings. He's aware of the situation. I sent him an email after the March meeting, and obviously he hasn't addressed it yet. So we're going to keep working on it. I do just want to point out one thing. The ownership at the building next to you is different from the ownership at 71 Kennedy. At one time, they were both owned by Coloma River, but now they have two separate owners. And so we have to engage with a different person now.
Okay, got
to get it addressed. Okay.
Thank you so much, Allison.
You're welcome. Any other hands, Commissioner Yates?
No, Chair Brooks.
Okay, then we will keep pushing forward. With that, we will actually hear from Sophia Tacola. So did you take down Miss Jolly already? or is she still a panelist?
I did take her down already, yes.
Okay, don't worry about that. Sophia Tacola
She-
will be next from the Mayor's Office on Community Relations and Services.
Hello. It says I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it, so wanted to flag that real quick. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Miss Jolly, I would love to get your information. I did write down what was just discussed previously, as well as we'll be talking to DOB. And I also noticed you were talking about rodents. So in that specific area, we can get DOH out there to do rodent abatement, which essentially is our rodent teams. I believe you've had them before in your area. Or I know you've had them before in your area, but they will essentially go down and try to eradicate the rodents that are there and causing that havoc, and then get our Department of Buildings over there as well. But before we go into that more, I know I have a short little amount of time, so I wanted to really address the biggest thing that we're talking about right now, which is our fiscal year 2025 budget. For everybody to know what's going on in the budget, this is definitely a very tight budget. You can go to budget.dc.gov. This budget and financial plan is made up of $21 billion in operational funds and then $11.8 billion in capital improvement funds. On the budget website, you will be able to see everything listed, as well as the specifics to Ward 4. And we'll have Ward 4 one-pagers of everything the mayor has proposed specifically coming into Ward 4. And I'm more than happy to also put that in the chat once I'm done talking, so everyone can easily access it. But some of our big things will be $235 million to modernize and renovate public schools, including LaSalle Bacchus, Whittier, Truesdale, and Barnard. And specifically with Whittier, it will also have an additional $18 million for temporary trailers at Whittier, which was something the community requested. Unfortunately, due to the swing space, it's going to take a bit longer for all the kids to go back into the new modernized Whittier school. So in the meanwhile, they will be in the trailers. There will also be $25 million to rebuilding and modernizing Shepherd Park Juanita E. Thornton Library, $13 million to renovate the Emory Heights Rec Center, and $3 million for erosion issues that we've seen at Lafayette Pointer Park. And then when we're looking at transportation and environment, there will be $406 million to maintain streets, sidewalks, and alleys, $164 million citywide for all different types of interventions for pedestrians and bicycle safety, as well as $17 million for a bus priority project we see on Georgia Avenue, 14th Street, and 16th Street. And then our last two things will be $13 million for the Metropolitan Branch Trail from First Place Northwest to Oglethorpe Northwest, which will definitely be impacting this community, and $2 million for planning a design of a new bicycle pedestrian trail around Military Road between Oregon Avenue and Beach Drive. So there's a lot there. Definitely check it out. I invite everybody to read, ask questions, and then if there's something that you are really passionate about, you're more than welcome to come to those hearings and make sure your voice is heard.
All right, I think your 3 minutes are up.
Perfect.
Okay.
If I can say, this weekend, there's going to be 2 events in the community. One at Flowers by Alexis on May 5th, they're going to be having stuff for Cinco de Mayo. And then from May 4th through 5th, from 14th Street and Spring Road / Shepherd, they're going to be having all sorts of Cinco de Mayo celebrations. So bring everybody out for those.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, I wanted to ask Sophia if and when this year's paving plan will be available. There are a few streets within my single member district that have been raised over years as having pretty severe disrepair, that have been on hold because of surrounding utility work, but I think residents are eager to know if they're on this year's plan, particularly the 6500 block of 8th Street Northwest. But the larger question is when that paving plan will be available, if it is already.
I can look into that for you because, like you said, I do know with our, who was it? I don't want to quote wrong, but specifically with one of our programs and contracting programs, a bit of different things got moved. So I want to make sure I get you the exact date for that. So I'll reach out to DTOT and respond back once I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of things. I mentioned the dumping behind the CVS, the 2 mattresses. Mr. Dance never responded. The 311 request has never been, what's the right word? Never been processed. So we need to get
So
rid of
you're
the
saying that
mattresses.
311 was never processed?
Meaning like they haven't done it yet. It's just sitting out there. I don't know what the right word for that is. They haven't addressed it. And then the grassy area at North Capitol and Kennedy, just before this meeting, I received a residential complaint and I forwarded it to you as well. The grass is probably a foot tall now.
Thank you. I just saw the North Capitol email and responded to that, flagging it to our team. For the CVS, did they give you any email back?
Just the
about like
confirmation number.
311? Okay.
Just the confirmation number. But normally it's like a 2-step, like they come out to see it. Excuse me. Normally they come out to see it and then they come later to pick it up. They haven't come to see it yet. It just hasn't moved at all.
Okay.
From what I can tell. Let me qualify that to be fair. From what I can tell.
Thank you. I will flag it again to them. Tomorrow I'll be out in the community and I can also take a picture for them to show them what it's looking like.
Thank you. Commissioner Yates, any other Q&A? I see one hand raised.
It's me.
Oh, no,
Well, I
I
have my hand up, but I do have a question.
Karen.
And then there's one, yes, I can promote Paul after I ask my question.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about the plan to cut the budget at LaSalle Backus Elementary. Despite an overall increase in DCPS and a projected enrollment increase at LaSalle Backus, I wanted to ask why the mayor is proposing a cut to the budget to one of our neighborhood elementary schools.
So specifically when looking at this budget, I'm sure all of you guys have heard that word sacrifice. With all the funds that we have, and then with COVID and all those different things of not having all the money that we had originally, there's needed cuts. And so you will see things on this budget that are part of those cuts. And unfortunately, it's also in a way those programs and those supports you can find in different ways throughout the budget. But is there an official statement about LaSalle? I don't have that.
Well, I just would say that, like, I know you have to report back on these meetings, and just say that, like, if you're looking for places for sacrifice, I know the mayor just rolled out a lot of money for downtown businesses, and has a bunch of other grant programs going on. Like, there's a $500,000 grant for businesses solely at the Walter Reed complex that she just announced. Count me as one that says put the elementary kids in our neighborhood first, if you could do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. That can definitely make that known. And then specifically when we're looking at the budget as it pertains to education, that budget went out before this fiscal year 2025 budget went out. The mayor had met with the principals and all key leaders with education. And so those are the things where we have seen schools being like, hey, this is what we need, this is what we don't need. And so I definitely recommend also, I will make sure that our team knows this request, but then also talking to LaSalle as well and be like, was this a request that you made? Is always an option.
I just say that I find it highly unlikely that the school principal would look at a projected enrollment increase of more kids and say, give me less money. Like I've met a lot of principals around this town, and it seems extremely unlikely to me. I mean, I'm happy to touch base and find out, but like, yeah.
But I think what you said was definitely, I will highlight it and make sure that that question is known. And I thank you for bringing that question up. And if I get a specific answer for you, because I don't have one right now, I will surely let you know.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Johnson.
Good evening. I just wanted to ask with regard to, and you may not know, and that's fine as well. During the hearings last week with regard to the Kennedy Street Library, it was reported that the $5 million that had been earmarked for a library along the Kennedy Street corridor has been, I guess, moved to other possibly worthwhile places. And I just wanted to know what your thoughts were, what the mayor's thoughts were, and rationale for that.
Yeah, so it was talked about a bit briefly during the official hearing when Mayor presented the budget to council. And then again, when we had our director for all of our libraries speak on a little bit during the hearing as well. And it is one of those cases where when we're looking at the budget, there are other places that needed the money and certain things had to get moved, and this is how it got moved.
Will there be perhaps dedicated funding in the future towards a library?
I don't have that information at this time, but I can make sure this question is known. And I think it's, especially when you guys have questions about the budget, I welcome these questions, and I want to make sure that we're bringing all of these back to our leadership and back to the mayor as well. And especially when it comes to this library, because I know that this has been a question, not just for 4D, but also 4B. Like, some of you guys live very close, if not on Kennedy Street as well, and are impacted by those areas. And so definitely welcome these questions. And if I can get a specific answer about, hey, why is this getting cut? Why is there no library? I will certainly let you know.
And just to let you know, in case you weren't aware, we have also approved a resolution in support of the library as well. So it affects us all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I guess we could go to Paul Kiernan.
Hi, folks. Yeah, there I am. Okay. Thanks for doing this. Hi, Allison. Good to see you.
Me too.
I'm just trying to be a squeaky wheel here about the intersection of Riggs Road and South Dakota Avenue Northeast. I live on Nicholson Street Northeast, and I cross Riggs Road almost every day to go to work. And it's just, I don't know, I see maybe 20 cars running the red light to turn left on Riggs Road. I raised this at the community walk that MPD did a couple weeks ago. And Officer Hamrick and Commander Lavenhouse were well aware of the problem, but they were reluctant to, pull anybody over, I think because they were worried about congestion, and they suggested that we ask for a traffic camera from DDOT. I think Allison and I have asked for a traffic camera from DDOT, and they've said no. And so it just kind of seems like a situation where, I don't know, like hundreds of people are just blowing through this red light every day, and pedestrians basically kind of have to take their life into their hands to cross the street. So, I think it would be consistent with the Vision Zero vision to maybe like think about doing something about that.
Absolutely, it is. And on my end, just so you know, since last we spoke, Paul, I've decided to write a resolution for next month's meeting with regard to the request. And I'm also going to couple it with another request at Missouri Avenue, First and Missouri. Or New
Awesome.
Hampshire and not first, but New Hampshire and Missouri. So I don't know that they'll respond differently, but at least it'll be in writing.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, me and all my neighbors up here in Riggs Park certainly are like very concerned about that intersection because, you know, it seems like a matter of time before one of us gets killed. Probably me.
Let's not put that out there. But specifically with this traffic camera, I want to make sure I get it right. What is the street that you would be wanting, or the corner that you would be wanting the traffic camera if it could come out?
South Dakota and Riggs, where they turn left onto Riggs from South Dakota, going towards the subway.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Commissioner Yates, you want to read the last question in the chat, and then we can let
Sure.
Mr. go?
It's more of a statement, so I'll just read it, and then I think Sophia can probably go. Kimberly says, as a community member who cares about the state of publication regarding sacrifices in the budget, sacrifice for vitalizing downtown and prioritize public education.
All right, thank you. All right, so while you're elevating,
Can I respond to that? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that's
So, some people ask questions about like, hey, why are we giving so much money to downtown? Like, that doesn't make sense. We're uptown. Why would we care? One of the big things about downtown is that's where so much of our revenue and so much of our money comes from. There's actually 3 pillars when we're looking at the budget. We're going to be talking about public safety, public education, and downtown. So yes, downtown is one of those pillars, but that does not come at a fact of not caring about our public safety or public education, because that also is one of our pillars when looking into the fiscal year 2025 budget. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you please elevate Barbara Rogers, please?
She should be joining any moment now.
Ms. Rogers, let us know when you're there.
I'll try the promotion again.
Ms. Rogers? Okay, why don't we move on to the next?
She did just promote.
Okay.
All right, can you all hear me?
We can.
All right, can you see me? All righty. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let me just pull up. I have just a quick few updates. I know I only have 3 minutes. Budget updates. On Thursday, Councilmember Lewis George will be chairing the final budget oversight hearing of the Committee on Facilities and Family Services. She also joined today's hearing for the DC Water and will be joining oversight hearings for WMATA and DDOT later in the week, making sure that these agencies' budgets meet the needs of our Ward 4 residents. Community members should feel welcome to testify at these upcoming hearings. I will put the link in the chat. Kennedy Street Library Project has all been mentioned here. Councilmember does want everyone to know that we are still fighting hard to make sure funding is not eliminated for the Kennedy Street Library Project. Councilmember won't back down from making sure that this project becomes a reality. Last week, we held a budget oversight hearing for the DC Public Library. We are happy to see numerous community members testify live and submit written testimony voicing their strong support for this project. For public safety, I think Commissioner Thompson mentioned that there was a public safety walk in Riggs Park. This was an excellent opportunity to identify ways to improve public safety in neighborhoods and to hear from community members about public safety issues they have been facing. So thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for coming out for that. Town halls for DC services tomorrow, April 30th at 6 p.m. DC Water will be holding a town hall to give community members more information about its budget, proposed rate adjustment for next year. And then finally, sign up for our Ward 4 newsletter that goes out every Friday evening. I will put that link in the chat as well. You can also get our newsletter to your phone by texting 202-286-5268. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, thank you, Chair Brooks. Thank you, Barbara, for being here. I just wanted to raise one point and ask one question. On the issue of schools, I know that the council member has been an advocate for our public schools, and I'm hopeful that she will advocate for full funding for all of our local schools and that there are not cuts to any of them, and that would honor the existing law, which requires that. And my question, this is something I've raised before, is that we had heard that the safe passage workers around Coolidge were going to extend their territory covered to the metro, to the Tacoma Metro. And we just aren't really seeing them beyond the school area. So I just wanted to flag that again, and say that we would like to see them in a broader area based on the path that students commute from the metro.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cohen, you had a question?
Yeah, hey Barbara. I just wanted to sort of follow up to our conversation that we had earlier today. Were you able to confirm whether or not the council member is going to be able to attend the walk on Wednesday, or if at least someone from the team will be there?
Yeah, definitely someone from the team. I wish I could be there, but you all know I'm recovering from knee surgery, so I will not be there, but someone from our team, and I know that the council member said she wanted to be there. She's actually going to be, I think she has a hearing or a meeting, but she was going to try to work it out because I got a couple of calls from a couple of other residents also wanting to know if she would be in attendance. So she is definitely going to do her best to be there.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
I actually have a question, so I guess I'll close out. And I think that Commissioner Johnson, Cohen, and I are interested in the status of the Ron Austin Memorial designation for the park. There was testimony taken at the committee of the whole, and then we've never heard anything else after that.
Okay, I will get a response for you.
Thank you. All right, so next on the list would be, so thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is Ward 4 State Board of Education Representative Fraser O'Leary.
You should be coming up.
All right, thank you. Much better.
Evening.
Good evening.
I have a lot of stuff for 3 minutes. First thing is the great news is about Whittier. Finally, the community, the only reason Whittier is going to be remodeled and we're going to have trailers, or the village of Whittier buildings, is because of the Ward 4 community. We forced the mayor to do that, and that's wonderful. It was a really good sign that democracy still works. The other thing that you need to think about Whittier is that since the village of Whittier is going to be there in not trailers but in cottages, Whittier's reconstruction is going to take an extra year. But what we need to make sure that is in August of this year, that the old building at Whittier is upgraded so that it's comfortable and safe for all of the people in the building. And so we can't stop make until we're sure that in August, the building will be acceptable for the community for the next 2 years while the new building goes down and the cottages of Whittier come up. We have a new ombudsman, Kimberly Humphrey. She's starting work today or this week, I believe. We will be working on the social emotional learning standards at our next working session, which is Wednesday. We weren't satisfied with what OSSI brought to us with the standards themselves. They weren't, in my opinion, they weren't ready for schools to be able to have things to work with. It was sort of a general idea of what social emotional learning is, but it wasn't specific enough for our students. We've been talking about the budget. One thing that the city wasn't recognizing is all of our Ward 4 schools have more enrollment today than they had last year at this time. And they're projected to get even bigger. And a lot of the schools, their budgets have been cut. So that's something that we need to raise our voices about too. The teachers are still working without a contract. It's been since October now, folks. And the teachers are still working without a contract. The negotiations are very, very slow. And DCPS is not doing what they're supposed to because the teachers need a contract. They're not asking for a lot more money. They're just asking for more freedom to be able to teach.
Mr. O'Leary, we are up against the 3 minutes, so
okay.
Say your last.
All right, you got it. I don't forget about Mrs. O'Leary's Books for Friends. Some of the members of the community have already continued to donate books. And I've been trying to put my stuff in the chat, but it hasn't worked. So maybe the chat's open because I'm online. And I'll put my phone numbers in there. Okay, I'll get to do that, I think.
Is there the melatonin put
Okay. While he's doing that, I'm sorry. I see that Commissioner Palmer has a question, but not Palmer, excuse me, Parks has a question. But before we move to her, Commissioner Yates, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask because my kids are in testing right now. The park testing consortium has been abandoned by every other member except for the District of Columbia, hence the rename this year. What do you think of DC sticking with a standardized test that no other state has decided to remain with? I mean, my son is buried in it for weeks and weeks. He's doing ANET and iReady and Park right now, almost a month of, I think, learning time gone due to it. So I wondering what your opinion on is the volume of standardized testing and DC holding on to this standardized test system by itself.
As you know, when I ran for the first time, that was the main point that I said was the park was a dangerous test for all of our students. In my opinion, it hasn't changed, and the changes in the test are minimal. I'm not a big standardized test person anyway, and I think it's horrible.
Well, he didn't mince any words, so I think you know where he stands.
Well, hopefully you can convince the mayor and the other local education leaders to go along with him. But Brenda is promoted now, Chair Brooks.
Commissioner Parks. Brenda, you there? Brenda? Are you on mute, Brenda?
I'm
wonders
sorry.
of Zoom.
My hand and my mouse is not working together tonight. I have nothing to say. I'm sorry.
You're just gonna keep popping into the meeting and saying nothing. You're gonna have to come up with a question in a minute.
Okay, baby, I will. Thank
right.
you.
She misses being a commissioner. That's all it is.
Exactly. Exactly. She just thinks she's supposed to be in the meeting. All right. Does anyone else have a question for Representative O'Leary? No? All right. Well, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. I can't get into the chat. I don't know if that has to do with,
You are a co-host, so you have full access.
Yeah, you
to
have
the chat.
access. I'm not sure why you can't do it, but you do have access.
okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
If
Okay.
Fraser, if it's easier if you send me an email, I can pop it in.
Yeah, I can do that.
Whatever works, because I have to move you off now.
That's all right.
Okay.
See you all later.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So next would be the Housing Justice Committee update, Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, thank you, Chair Brooks. Just a quick recap of our April meeting, which took place on April 3rd. We had a very interesting and robust discussion with Anne Marie Cuccia, who's with Street Sense Media, about her reporting on homelessness in the district and the recent point in time count, as well as discussion with Dana White, who's the recently in the advisory director role at Miriam's Kitchen, and we talked a lot about this current budget and efforts to end chronic homelessness, where the budget may fall short in that regard. Much of what we've been working on lately is planning for the committee's tenant resource fair. This would be the second time doing a tenant resource fair, which we are tentatively planning for early July. And again, working with Advisory Neighborhood Commission 1A's Zoning and Housing Justice Committee. And our next meeting is this Wednesday, May 1st at 7:30 p.m. We meet virtually. All of the information is on the commission's website. We will have a discussion with the Office of the Tenant Advocate about tenant rights and housing assistance. And we will continue to plan for the Tenant Resource Fair in July, so we hope you will join us. I will share a link to the meeting information. Once again, it will be this Wednesday, May 1st at 7:30 p.m. Virtually. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Commissioner Palmer? All right, then we'll move next to the Vision Zero meeting. Both Commissioner Yates and I were unable to attend this last meeting. Commissioner Palmer, do you want to give that update?
Yes, I can. Let me just pull up that agenda so I can jog my memory.
You discussed the NOI.
Yes, among other things. There were a few things on that one. Okay, so this meeting was on Wednesday, April 17th at 7 p.m. And we discussed a recently issued DDOT notice of intent for some traffic safety infrastructure at the intersection of Georgia Avenue, Alaska Avenue, and Kalmia Road Northwest. That discussion helped formulate one of the resolutions that we will be voting on later tonight. We also spoke with the District Department of Transportation about possibilities with regard to alley traffic calming, specifically with regard to the alley by Whittier Elementary School at 5th and Roxborough, which is a kind of unusual alley that leads straight into an actual street. So it creates some confusion. We had some discussion about what is and isn't possible there, and learned that DDOT's Safe Routes to School folks are reconsidering what they can do in terms of traffic calming in alleys by schools. We also very briefly discussed another resolution for this evening on DDOT's scoring system to prioritize addressing sidewalk gaps. And that's that meeting.
All right, and the next meeting is scheduled for the third Wednesday of the month, which is May 15th at 7 p.m. Commissioner Yates, anything you want to add to that?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we will hear from the Youth Advisory Committee. Why don't I can start and you can finish, Commissioner Palmer. The Youth Advisory Committee held its first meeting. We had some conflicts with some of the participants, so we had two children present. So sort of get to know you session. Our next meeting is scheduled for Sunday, May 5th at 6 p.m. And we're having pizza. We're having a pizza party for them and have an agenda item set up or an agenda set up to talk about their goals for the committee for the remainder of the year. Anything I should add, Commissioner Palmer?
No, just that we may be welcoming a new member, someone who expressed interest, who participated in Spring Cleanup Week. And it looks like we'll have good turnout at this in-person pizza party.
There'll be pizza.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. Lastly, Community Safety and Support Committee, Commissioner Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I already put a link in the chat as well as a flyer with a QR code. I am still looking for committee members, as Commissioner Barry pointed out. For this committee, it previously in its previous iteration met the third Thursday of the month from 7 to 8 o'clock. I would very much like to begin hosting meetings, hopefully this month, if I can obtain at least a few more members to join the committee. We right now have one confirmed and one tentative committee member. So if you are interested, please complete the application so that I can put forward your name to the committee for approval during our May planning meeting. And for more information about the committee, please look at the flyer, which gives a rundown of what our focus areas will be for this term. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, we'll move into our presentations. Our first presentation will be from the DC Clean Rivers Project, DC Water. It's the Rock Creek Green Infrastructure Project. And I believe that we're hearing from Eric Lienhard. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So if you could promote him, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Just 1 second while we promote the DC Water folks. I'm also going to promote our next presenters just so they can get situated.
So my video is not turned on, and if I can share my screen, that would be great.
Yes, you were just made a co-host.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from DC Water who should be up here? I saw.
No, there's others from my team, but I think we're good.
Okay.
So let me share my screen. Is the presentation viewable for everybody?
It is.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for inviting us back. The last time I was here was in 2001, presenting our Rock Creek Project B, where we had planned at that time 5 permeable alleys and 2 bioretentions. Right? Actually, it was 5 permeable alleys, but after meeting with the commissioners and the residents, we were able to add 2 bioretentions to our project description. And then during the course of construction of Rock Creek Project B, we were able to, with additional funding that we had available to us, bring in 2 more permeable alleys to your ward. So tonight I'm going to be presenting Rock Creek Project C, which is our next green infrastructure project. But before we go there, I always like to tout what DC Water's Clean Rivers has been able to accomplish through February of 2024. The March and April numbers are still coming in. But through our program, we have been able to prevent 16.8 billion gallons of combined sewage, as well as 10,339 tons of trash from entering the Anacostia River. That is through the Anacostia Tunnel system, which includes the Northeast Boundary Tunnel, which was just commissioned last September. We are in the process of designing and building our Potomac Tunnel. The notice to proceed for that design build contract was just let out in November of last year. For green infrastructure, Rock Creek Project A and B have both been completed, mostly in Ward 4. A little bit was in Ward 1. And tonight we'll be talking about Rock Creek Project C. Our last green infrastructure project will be Rock Creek Project D. You're going to hear tonight that Rock Creek Project C is an alley-only project, while our Rock Creek Project D will be an open space bioretention focused program. We also have under design right now our Piney Branch Tunnel, which will be at the outfall of CSO 49. So a little bit about Rock Creek Project C. We've identified 8 project areas within Ward 4. 4 of those project areas, as you can see, are located within ANC 4B. Last time we only had 1 project area in your ANC, but because of the warm welcome we had, we were able to find additional locations and alleys applicable for green infrastructure. We're looking at construction between March of 2025 and June 2027. And we're looking at a construction cost of $15 to $21 million. The locations of the green infrastructure are based primarily about the contributing drainage area, how much water the watershed or the alley produces, and that we can get to our green infrastructure. We also look at how clean that contributing drainage area is, how much sediment's being transported down the alley, how much tree and leaf litter there may be when selecting those alleys. We also look at constructability, the size and the width of the alley. We need to make sure that we can get our vehicles in there, both to excavate the alley as well as to build the green infrastructure. We're interested in underground utilities. The good news is ANC 4B is a newer part of the district, so there aren't a lot of underground utilities in conflict in our alleys, so we were able to find a lot more suitable sites. But we also account for overhead utilities. We don't want to take anyone's internet out or electricity by hitting an overhead wire that may be too low. Agree underneath the alley surface. We also look at proximity to structures, whether that's a house, a garage, or retaining walls. And the one thing that we learned through the construction of our green infrastructure is that the rate complete all. Unfortunately, we are ratepayer driven. So if we disrupted a portion of the alley, we have an agreement with DDOT to restore that underneath the DDOT program under either the Alley Palooza program or their revitalization of other alleys. So specifically in ANC 4B, as I said, we had 4 project areas. The first one is in the Tacoma area road. We're looking at a potential of up to 13 permeable alleys in this area. Now, when I say potential, we have a requirement under our consent order to manage 25 acres of impervious area. We are looking at well over that in our project description that we have published. Some of these alleys will come off depending on public comments, and additional alleys may come on as we saw under Rock Creek Project B. In the Brightwood area, which is Tuckerman to Missouri and 4th to 9th Street, as shown in this map, we're proposing about 15 permeable alleys. In the Manor Park area, which we've been before, which under our Rock Creek Project A, we're going to come in and do a little bit of infill here. Again, that's from Quackenboos and Longfellow to Blair and 4th. We're looking at up to 8 permeable alleys. And then the last area is also in Manor Park, but moves into the Lamont Riggs from Whittier Street to Tuckerman and First to Third. We're looking at a total of 4 potential permeable alleys. So a lot coming to ANC 4B. As we've done with all of our other projects, we will, during construction, have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline for residents, commissioners, stakeholders to call. We will be working those standard DC hours, 7 to 7. Most likely the crews end around 3:30, but there will be some evenings that we will be pushing to the 5-7 o'clock hour. Weekend work may be considered depending on what's happening with weather and other things, but that will always be known in advance and given residents ample time to prepare for that. There will be no water or sewer service outages or any other utilities. And at the end of each night, we will make sure that the sites are secured and safe for people in the area. There will always be site security with signage. We will have both vibration and noise monitoring, dust control, as well as rodent control throughout each of the project sites. We usually put rodent traps up 2 weeks prior to our construction to ensure that any rodents in the area that we disrupt, get to those traps before making or finding a new home. Access to garbage collection and other contractors, handicapped access to the back of people's homes, healthcare needs are all coordinated seamlessly with our outreach coordinator as well as the contractor. And then we do follow all the Urban Forestry Administration's tree protection. Trees are an important part of our infrastructure, the city itself, important for the mayor, as well as DC Water. So we make sure that the trees and the roots are protected throughout the whole project cycle. I know I've gone really quick, but we do have a public meeting coming up on May 6th where you'll learn more information. But more importantly, we do have a project description on our website. You can go to dcwater.com/green and find a link to our Rock Creek Project C. There you're going to find the project description that includes more descriptions of these 4 project areas, cleaner maps so you can see if your alley will be impacted, and you can provide us comments through cleanriversgi@dcwater.com through May 10th. So if you didn't see your alley on there and you want us to consider your alley, please put in that comment. If you have a concern about an alley that you have seen on our project description, please let us know as well. So with that, I will take questions.
Sorry, I was muted. Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, and I want to express gratitude for your outreach to our meeting and also directly to neighbors. I flyered neighbors and saw your flyers as well. So they got double
Wonderful.
flyered, which is never a bad thing.
No.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Wanted to know what, if any, level of coordination there is with DDOT in terms of alley repaving, because there's one location that I noticed is being repaved by DDOT this summer and then is proposed for installation of a permeable alley. And my other question is that a lot of the portions in my single member district seem to be parts of alleys, not entire stretches. And I'm wondering if you can explain why that is.
Sure. So we do coordinate with DDOT. So if there's a specific alley that you've seen, please email us that alley to make sure that it is identified in our spreadsheet that we have with DDOT. So that's important. And then, so we are a volume-based program. So under our consent order, we are required to manage the 1.2-inch storm over a 24-hour period. So that means that storm generates a certain amount of stormwater or volume. So when we look at the volume from that contributing drainage area, right? So all the water that comes down the alley gets funneled towards the base of the alley. We look at the volume of water that's generated in that contributing drainage area, and we build for lack of a better term, a bathtub the size necessary to hold that volume of water. So if that bathtub only needs to be 4 feet deep by 150 feet long, that's all we're going to build, because anything more than that, we are not allowed to take that volume into consideration against our consent order. So to be cognizant of our ratepayer dollars and utilizing that to its fullest, we only will green the portion of the alley that will take care of the volume necessary to meet our consent order. Now, if we disrupt that a portion of the alley, so sometimes the green portion of the alley is further up from the intersection because we've got a structure, a garage, a house, our under drain that we have to connect will disrupt and break up that alley. So we will then restore from the end of our alley to the apron, give a new apron, and then repave the street where we make the sewer connection.
Commissioner Johnson?
Briefly, you mentioned accessibility for our seniors and individuals with disability. Can you just provide a little bit more context as to what that looks like?
Sure. So under Rock Creek Project B, which is our most recent one, we had 2 examples where we had residents who needed accessibility options. The first one was a little bit easier than the second one for us. We were able to work with our contractor and our permitting department to get a dedicated parking space in front of that resident's home because they had access from their front door that was safe for them to travel rather than in their alleyway. So that was one accommodation. The other accommodation was we were not able to do that. The resident had a very specialized ramp in the back of their home. So what we did was we were able to build the alley in 2 separate sections to always allow access to that residence, the rear of their home. So we would do the downstream portion, so they had access to their garage. We would then do the upstream portion. Now, obviously, the portion that was right behind their home, we had to coordinate with them in terms of doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. But our contractor at the time was Fort Myer. There's no guarantee it's going to be them again. But our outreach coordinator works hand in glove with our contractor and those residents to make sure that those needs are met. We also want to make sure that our alleys are accessible to fire and rescue, or each of the residents' homes are accessible to fire and rescue. So hopefully that answers your question. There's always going to be case by case, and we have to match the need to what we are able to do in the project. Another example was not necessarily a resident who needed access, but it was a business. It was a funeral home that utilized that alley. And we actually took the alley out of the program, which benefited you guys because we needed to find a new alley, which we found in ANC 4B. So we do always have extra alleys in our back pocket, just in case we do have to abandon an alley for either a business or residential need.
Understood. Thank you so much. That does help.
You're very welcome, Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Gilligan?
Hey, Eric, I was just curious about if there's been a design iteration since previous phases, or if it's going to be the same as it's been, or if anything you've learned along the way to change.
Sure. So from Rock Creek Project A to Rock Creek Project B, we made some design changes. So Rock Creek Project A had shallow depth and a full depth alley. So we saw that design in the beginning was beneficial, especially if we were near retaining walls or homes. And we've decided to move away from being right up against homes and retaining walls. So that allows us to go full depth in the alleyway. The other thing that we've noticed along the way is that the water was not being retained in the green alley as long as we needed it to. So we made modifications to our what we call the flow restriction device. So there's a small valve in each of the alleys that controls the water that goes back into the sewer system. So we've made that modification. And then the last modification kind of talks about how clean the CDA is, that contributing drainage area. So we started adding sediment traps, just grooved concrete above each of our alleys, where as the water flows comes down, the sediment drops out, and our street sweepers can come and collect that sediment a lot easier. So if you go around Manor Park in Rock Creek Project A, you won't see any of those sediment traps, and you'll start seeing a change in the type of construction we have. We've also changed the brick we're using from Rock Creek Project A to Rock Creek Project B. We're using a brick that is still ADA compliant and bicycle friendly. It just has a wider gap, and we're seeing a higher infiltration rate in those than we are with some of the ones that we saw in Rock Creek Project A. But we're always looking at lessons learned, trying to improve upon that design. And then when we do have to go back to an alley, it allows us to add in those sediment traps or even change out the bricks as they age out and we have to replace the surface.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Commissioner Parks has her hand raised. I don't know if she has a question or not, really.
I will promote her and we will find out.
Okay.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
All right.
At your email. Say, look at your email. I sent your email. Said, not me this time.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you
I'm
very
promoting
much.
Julie Glur, who
Oh, okay.
also has a question.
Julie, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, first time using this on my phone. I wanted to ask about you mentioned something about going back to an alley. We
Sure.
had one of those projects done right in the alleys by my house. I'm at 17 Longfellow Street, Northeast, and I love the project. But there was like literally one section in the house next to me, in between the two different houses where the alley begins, that they didn't do. And like water just pools there, and we have a mosquito problem in the area. And I was like, why did they do all of this alley except for this one section? Because my neighbor has 2 sump pumps going into the alley, and then the guy on the other side has 1 sump pump going right into the alley. And so there's like a huge pool of water. So I was wondering, like, do you ever go back and address like something like that and look at that and extend the project a bit, or is that kind of not done?
So the answer is yes. We always come back to look at situations that may have caused an additional hardship that wasn't there to begin with, to see if there's a corrective measure that can be done. We've done that twice now, unfortunately. One where we needed to regrade a sidewalk, that tree was buttressing and the sidewalk was no longer draining properly into the alley. So we need to make that adjustment after the fact. And then another one where we needed to extend some existing paving when they came back into the alley to do some of the asphalt work. The asphalt didn't cure correctly, and when they rolled it, it created an impression. We've not yet gone back to extend an alley to add more green infrastructure to it. We try to see what the underlying issue is, especially for ponding, to see if that water can be moved into that alley. So I think I wrote your address down as 17 Longfellow, Northeast.
Northeast, yeah. So it'd be between, I think it's 19 Longfellow and 2021 Longfellow, I think, is where the alley is between those two houses. And it has always been an issue. There's always been ponding there, but I was like, why is this like 100-foot section or 200-foot section not done?
Sure. Do you know when the alley was constructed? About how many years ago?
I want to say, gosh, I am terrible with time. Because I would say it's like 2 years ago, but it could have been 4.
Okay.
It was It was pre-pandemic, so it had to be at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like
And
I
think
lost
it
2 years
was
with the pandemic.
definitely a lot of,
Yeah,
yeah.
we all
Like I
have.
gauge things by
Yes.
the pandemic now. So yeah, that was before the pandemic. So that means it had to be at least 5 years ago. And I think it was probably more like 7, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Okay, well, I am on Street View right now looking at it, and I will have someone from my team get out there next week. We have
Yeah,
something
and
going out this
I'm
week.
100% confident that it was pre-pandemic. Just
Okay,
not sure if
yeah.
it was 5, 6, or 7, but it's somewhere in that time frame. If that helps.
Okay. Yep. Well, Street View is great because I can see the alley constructed on Street View. Okay, we will get somebody out there to take a look at that. Hopefully it will rain in the next week or two because it's going to be important for us to see where that low-lying area is. But if you do have photos of it, that's the best way to get that information to us. Again, if you can email a photo of that ponding area to cleanriversgi@dcwater.com. That would be helpful to us because I don't want to get out there during a rain event and not see the magnitude that you may see in a larger storm.
Okay. All right, we'll do it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Julie.
Thank you.
And then I just want to make sure, Andy, I've got my outreach coordinator on here. Andy, just text me that you've taken down the information so I don't have to email it to you. Thanks.
All right, great.
I have one more question too, because
Sure.
we also had 2 rain gardens along the street that were built around the same time. And there was an issue with them. There's 3 built along the street, but the 2 right near my house, they had flooding problems at the beginning. So almost everything they planted died.
Yes. So I'm on Street View and I know these bioretentions very well. So we had just visited there about 6 weeks ago to do an inspection, and we were going to be doing corrective maintenance specifically for these bioretentions and some others in the area where the plants did not survive or the plants received so much rainwater that their feet just rotted out or their roots rotted out. So these bioretentions, it is a triple bioretention system on that street. We are fully aware of it, and we're hoping to hit this planting season for that. So again, thank you very much for that. This one's definitely on our radar. The other one has yet to be on our radar, but it is now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Julie.
All right, bye.
All right, well, with that, we thank you for your time, and we're going
Absolutely
to our next presentation, which is Joel Conlon, the lead urban forester for Urban Forestry Division of the Department of Transportation.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to share my screen with you all. Can you see that?
No.
No? All right. Let's see what's going on. All right, it's late for me. I'm in bed by this time.
Now we
usually.
see it.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so I am Joel Conlon, Ward 4 arborist. I'm one of 3 Ward 4 arborists. We've grown in staffing, and ANC 4B is in my area. So I am part of DDOT's Urban Forestry Division under DDOT. Our mission is to keep the district's tree canopy healthy, safe, and growing. This is what we do. Tree management branch. We have a state forester who is Earl Utzler. He also lives in Ward 4. We have a development team, and they work with DC Water and other authorities to make sure our mission is being held up, and kind of commit to other missions from other agencies. We have an administrative staff of 2 people, and then we have 1 forestry outreach person that keeps us abreast of new pests and diseases that are coming our way. We have 24 urban foresters, 4 supervisors, and then we have 7 in-house crew workers. We do everything with contracts, as most municipalities do nowadays, for efficiency. we direct management of our street trees, the school trees, and trees in the parks. We also do public space permits for people that are going to do construction within the public space and they want to remove a tree or they want to protect a tree. We also provide emergency response. That's during storms, 24 hours a day. You know, we're getting trees out of the road, limbs out of the road, our trees off of people's homes if that happens. And then directly, we have had these. Most recently, we had the Urban Forestry Preservation Authority Amendment Act of 2022, and that gave us the Heritage Tree Law, which is any tree over 30 inches in the district cannot be removed if it's healthy. This is our, we get about 15,000 service requests every year. That's not just in Ward 4, that's all over the city. We have 19,000 trees pruned, 8,000 trees planted, that's annual. And we do about 3,500 removals all over the city as well. 2,000 special tree removal permits. That's not, we're not allowing people to remove 2,000 trees. That's what we're processing. We deny about a third of those. And we do public space permits, development review, and then we do outreach. We will be at the Earth Day event at Tacoma Elementary. So this is our interactive map for ANC 4B, and these are the open work orders. So you can see the pruning, the planting. We have some like weird work orders, American elm pruning, that's seasonal. We do that in the colder months because if we prune it in the warmer months, it can be susceptible to Dutch elm disease. The trees struggle to recover from those wounds. So this is basically what's going on in your area. This is our annual planting, just a bunch of numbers. Sorry guys, this is kind of dull and boring. This is trees planted, 6,500. We wanted to get to 8,000. We're not going to be able to get to 8,000. Our planting season wraps up tomorrow just due to the high heat. These hot days, the mortality rate of these trees goes over 10%, and it's not good for our trees. We'll have to warranty a lot of these things. So you can see Ward 4 has a lot of open planting work orders, lots of service requests in Ward 4 wanting trees, which is good. It's a good thing. Open tree spaces versus full stocking. So our open citywide tree spaces are 1.5%. So we're doing a good job getting these trees in the ground, whether people like it or not. And this is just, we're trying to reach our canopy goal of 40%. By 2032, this is showing that we're on track. Kind of a goofy slide, but it is what it is. This is the urban heat island data, and this is where we're trying to divert most of our resources to these red zones to plant more trees in these hotter neighborhoods. And you can see Ward 4B has a lot of heat island down close to Missouri Avenue, 9th Street, Georgia Avenue. And I'm not sure that trees are going to solve all of that. And I'm not sure what the heat island effect is caused from. So could be commuter traffic, could be, you know, just the density of housing. I'm not an expert in that, but we are planting 2,000 trees in Ward 4 every year. We're trying to. And so, yeah, this just shows that we're planting trees where they're needed the most. This is like a 5-year data. And you can see that 4B has like a very, very green spot or kind of, you know, hexagon area. What can residents do? You know, if you want to be involved, you could go to treesdc.gov. You can see what's going on in your neighborhood. You can put in service requests, request planting, request pruning, request removal, but you can also see what's scheduled in front of your home or your neighbor's home. And you can communicate with us that way. You can open service requests. You can send emails to me that way. And these are just kind of the trees options that we have that we would put on the street that are disease resistant and have a good mortality rate. So if you wanted to call in a service request to have a tree planted in front of your house in the tree box or an adjacent park, you could request all of these trees. We have some small canopy trees on the right that would coexist under wires. And those would be appropriate. We won't be putting oaks under wires or London planes, and we won't necessarily put a cherry in front of your house if there's no overhead wires. We want to optimize that canopy that we can get from those. These are the tree permits that we've processed. This is not in, I don't know if that's Ward 4 or not. I cannot see that very well. Sorry. Thank you. There's my information.
Okay, well, I will start. First, I want to thank you for coming because I actually have several questions around the role of urban forestry. And
Okay.
so I'm just gonna spit out a couple of things and then you can point me in the right direction.
Okay.
We have a resident who has a tree on their private property. I'm gonna guess it's a heritage tree. It's a full-on oak tree. It's, you know, been there forever. They still have to get a permit to take that tree down, right? So you would come out, I want to make sure I understand the process. Someone would come out, inspect the tree and mark it deemable to be removed. And then that resident pays for a permit to have a private contractor come remove the tree. Is that correct?
Yes. So any tree on your property, I advise people, even if it's a small tree, the diameter of the tree has gone down from 18 inches to 14 inches. So, you know, it's about that big. So don't make the mistake of trying to remove a tree and guess what the size is. Just apply for it. And I or one of my Ward 4 counterparts will come out and look at the tree. We'll measure the tree to make it sure it's not below the size, and then we'll assess the health of the tree. So you would get a permit for free if the tree was hazardous or had a disease or was impacting your property in some way that only your property could be repaired by removing that tree. Yes, so you would need that tree evaluated and you would need a permit to remove that tree, but you get a free permit if the tree is hazardous. You wouldn't pay, you would just pay your contractor.
Okay. Didn't understand that part.
If
So
the
that's
tree is
helpful. Thank
healthy
you.
and it's heritage, you cannot remove it in the District of Columbia.
And then the other question I have, and then I'll move to the other commissioners, is about planting trees to get to your goal versus maintaining those trees. So you've planted several trees in 4B08, but you don't come back out. So they're now dead, right? So you planted them, for example, in a green space that no one is watering.
Yeah.
So now now you guys now need to come back out and dig up the dead tree and put yet another tree. It feels a little bit like you're just trying to get to that goal of 8,000 or that whatever that goal is for that year without necessarily considering what kinds of trees you're planting and where you're planting them.
Well, we're trying to have the trees survive, but every year we have like 9 to 10% mortality, and that's why I said we're cutting off the planting. Tomorrow's our last day because the temperatures are going up and these trees do die more often than temperatures. But we do plant trees in the hope that they're going to live, and we do not usually maintain a tree within 5 years of planting it because it doesn't need much maintenance. It needs watering. We water twice a month. That's the best that we can do with our contractors. And we kind of lean on the homeowner or the adjacent property owner to water those trees and help us out throughout the summer months. You know, a tree needs about 25 gallons of water every week. I know it's a big ask, but we just simply can't give enough water to it by ourselves. So that's why we lean on the homeowner and
But
ask
you're not
them
asking the homeowner in advance. And in this example that I have, there is no homeowner because it's just an open space. So,
right.
And it's the same space that I'm complaining about where the grass hasn't been mowed in a year and the grass is now a foot tall. So the grass is as tall as the sapling that you planted.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Triangle on Kennedy and New Hampshire Avenue and North Cat. Yeah, so like that situation, like we can only water it twice a month. That's all we can do. The gas station's not going to water that. The people across North Capitol, that's a huge street. It's dangerous to water those trees. So yeah, we're hoping that those trees survive. And that's the best answer I have for that situation. But the grass is maintained by DPW.
Yeah.
UDOT doesn't have a mowing contract.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's helpful because they're denying it, but I can say that we talked to you.
Yeah, I mean, and the hope and the when we put trees in those big triangles like that, we're trying to calm traffic. We're trying to, screen, that residents' view of that gas station where those guys are working on the cars all the time. Those are things that people request. The object is not to put a tree in the ground to get to this number, although that number is what we're trying to reach. We're trying to do other things with those trees as well.
Yeah, I know that one's designated to be an orchard. I just not sure that that's that we're gonna get there, but we'll see. All right, I'm gonna move on and let some other commissioners ask some questions. Why don't we start with Commissioner Gilligan?
Hey, Joel. First, I just want to thank you for quick action. Last July, we had a fairly major storm event, took down a bunch of trees in the neighborhood, including one in my SMD, and you guys cleaned it up from the street rapidly, and you've already planted the two that are doing really well in its place. So I thought that was awesome and quick response. And the other thing was on the, you said that in the district you can't remove heritage trees and special trees. Just wondering again, I think I've asked you this before, but if you could remind me, kind of what is the penalty, like payment structure for folks that ignore those, for developers that might ignore those kinds of things?
Yeah, so
scales potentially, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fee that's based on the size of the tree, the diameter of the tree, and it is $300 per inch of circumference. And I'm sorry, yeah, it's $300 per inch of circumference for street trees, and then $100 per inch of circumference for private trees. So, because we have people that will remove street trees like on the weekend, and they think, well, they're never going to know, but we know we have an active inventory, so we do know, and neighbors tend to let us know. So it would be, so say we have a heritage tree that's 30 inches times pi, and that's how we get circumference. And then it would be that number times 100. So that would be the fee. So that would be, sorry, I'm doing some math. $9,400 would be the fine for removing a tree illegally at 30 inches.
Okay. And just related to that, do you have any sense of how often those fines are levied on developers?
Yeah, and they're also levied on private homeowners too. Today we caught one actually in your area for maybe it's Evans area on 600 block of Whittier Street Northwest. Somebody topped a heritage tree, like a heavy pruning. Any more than 25% crown reduction is considered a removal. And so we found that today, and we have to do some more investigation. So that was just a private homeowner that was trimming a tree excessively. And so usually what happens is we get neighbors that call, concerned neighbors, and they'll let us know that this tree was removed or topped during this period of time, like a week back or something. And then we have LiDAR technology, and we'll check to see when the tree was last, healthy, and we'll kind of gauge from there, and then we'll approach the resident. We have an on-staff attorney that specializes in tree law. And so we kind of give all the facts to them, and then they take it to, they issue a notice of infraction to the homeowner.
Okay. Is there any documentation anywhere you guys track in a release about the rates of the fines getting levied on this, and then also that they're actually, collected?
Yeah, we do have documentation on that. I don't know about specific Ward 4. I can ask our attorney if he has a specific Ward 4. He usually groups them into a team, so it's Ward 4 and 5. But I can ask him if he can tease that out and share that with you.
I'll follow up with an email. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Hi, Mr. Conlon. I just wanted to thank you on behalf of two different residents, one of which had a tree limb that was precariously hanging over her roof, and you all came out within a week to trim that. So I want to thank you for that. Also, during that same storm that Commissioner Gilligan was referencing, we had a very large oak tree that collapsed. Thankfully, no one or no property was injured, but you all did come out and immediately chop it down, and just last week removed the remaining stump. My question is, do we need to now put in a 311 request for a tree to be planted? Or is that already in queue by the very fact that it fell down during the storm and had to be removed?
So when the stump is ground out, we get a notification from our contractor because they want to get paid, and then we verify that it was ground out. And generally, we try to schedule a planting in that spot, and if we can fit two, we'll do two. But 311 is good because you can track that. We can communicate through 311. But generally, you don't have to. If we ground a stump out, we're going to put a tree in that spot unless there's disabled parking or there's like a weird issue with a fire hydrant or something like that. A tree is going to go right back in that spot next season.
Okay, great. No, there's no barriers at the moment.
Okay.
No, but I will just put in a 311 request just as an extra measure. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Palmer.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. Thank you, Joel, for being here. I also want to express gratitude for the division's quickness in responding to the requests that I have submitted, and also including some level of detail in the 311 notes so that I can understand what's happening. That has been historically helpful. The question I have is, I often have residents who see a notice of tree pruning or some sort of tree action and get very concerned that a tree is going to be removed. And I'm wondering if you can explain kind of the common reasons for removing a tree, like why does that happen and how common is it?
So the most common reasons for removing a street tree are just the risk to the public. We have to mitigate that risk to the public. It's not, if a tree was in a park, we would be a little more lenient with it, and you will see that we are in some situations. If you go to Tacoma Rec, there's some trees that have, weird form, weird structure, or we might let them go a little past what we would let them go on the street because the target is not there. Obviously, the dog park is a target, but the middle of a field, the chance of somebody walking under that tree or the occasional walking under is less than the street. So yeah, we just remove the trees because of disease, if they're dead, obviously, and structural issues. If a car hits a tree and we feel that that tree is now compromised, even though it looks healthy up top in the crown, we will remove that tree to prevent further failure and hurting somebody. For pruning, we do that kind of for different reasons. We do elevation from home, elevation from roadway, and then we do dead and dying limbs. So that those won't fall on people and cars and property as well.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cohen.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Really appreciate the presentation. Just had a quick question about paper alleys. Can you just sort of give me like a quick primer on how they work? Is it DDOT's responsibility or DPW's? Are you guys focused more on the trees that are in the paper alleys or nearby? Because we have a paper alley in Lamont. I think that DDOT came out and sort of addressed it last year, but it's sort of back, it's overgrown again and back where it was. So what's the best way to sort of tackle that, and how do you go approach that?
It's also one of those goofy situations where like you have the trees and the tall grass at North Capitol in New Hampshire. The DPW trims the grass and the shrubs, and anything that is considered a tree, DDOT would maintain. So if it's a dead tree in the paper alley, we would have to remove that, or sometimes there's like limbs that are hanging over people's backyards and people are concerned, so we'll elevate those off of those trees. Those trees are considered public space trees, and we do have to maintain those. We do have issues with accessibility sometimes. It's hard to get to them. People have taken over those alleys as if they're their yards, so we have access issues. And the Department of Transportation sees any trees that is fenced in by a private fence, even if it's in the alley dimension, that's the responsible of who's fenced it in until that fence can come down. We have that often. People say, well, that's not my tree. I looked at my plat, and well, your fence is around it, so you're taking ownership of it. If we can't access it, we can't maintain it. but yeah, we are responsible for accessing all paper alley trees.
All right.
The only thing we don't do is we don't plant in paper alleys because then we have to prune and remove.
Understood. Any other questions? Anything in the chat, Commissioner Yates?
Yes, Chair Brooks, there's a couple questions. I think Rabia Mateen's question about maintenance has already been answered. So I'm going to plant on that. But Christopher Banks says there was reporting that in American cities, urban forestry departments planted too many male trees and caused excessive pollen, exacerbating health issues. Do we plant a good ratio of trees by gender?
Hard to know. We try not to plant female trees because they produce fruit, and some of the fruit trees are a nuisance to the sidewalks. We want to plant apple trees all around the sidewalks, or female ginkgos, as some of you might know, are a nuisance to the abutting resident and the sidewalk. So it's hard to know that tree coming out of the nursery is female or male just because it's so juvenile. But we request that we don't have female ginkgos or fruit-bearing trees. We will put some fruit-bearing trees on the sidewalk, service berries and persimmons. That we feel that that's a maintainable fruit. Cherry trees, although the cherry is not like an edible cherry, so it's not like one you would see in the supermarket. But yeah, we don't say, well, we need 50% of our trees to be female, 50% to be male. Although that is a good point about the pollen. And some of you guys are probably feeling that now. I am.
I'll be honest. Okay. Anything else?
Julie Lawson says, I strongly support the Whittier swing space proposal at Tacoma Rec, where I know Casey Trees has planted a lot of new trees. Will urban forestry be engaged in the siting decisions?
Yeah, so all those trees were, so the trees that are along the fence of Coolidge High School, the back fence, and then the open DPR property where there's kind of a soccer field. Those were all planted by urban forestry, even though they have a Casey Trees tag on them. We use them as a grower, as a supplier. We do plant those trees ourselves with our contractors. So urban forestry is making all of those decisions. All of the trees that are between the Coolidge fence on Sheridan and the back of the sidewalk, those are all scheduled by urban forestry. Most of the trees on the northwest corner, it's the northwest corner of the rec center, 5th and Van Buren, were also planted by DDOT Urban Forestry. And then we do give Casey Trees a small amount of trees to plant, so you might see them in some of the park areas, but we do coordinate with them. We don't allow them just to go willy-nilly and put trees wherever they want. And they're really good about reaching out and seeing what our needs are and working together.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions, so I think you are free to go.
All right, thank you. And
We
this is my
appreciate you taking
information.
the time, and it was very helpful. It came right at the right time for me to answer some residential questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
All right, our last presentation is the Department of Energy and Environment, River Smart Homes eligibility and program details. And I don't know who is speaking, so.
He's here. It's Brendan Durkin.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Can, yes.
Great. So my name is Brendan Durkin. I am an environmental protection specialist at the DC Department of Energy and Environment, and I'm going to be talking about the River Smart Homes program this evening. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to share this. I'm going to share my screen. Share. Great. Can you see?
Yes.
Can you see
your screen?
Yep, you can see my screen. riversmarthomes.org.
Yes.
Great. So the program hosts a website here at riversmarthomes.org. I'm going to be going over some information contained in this webpage, but if you want to explore on your own about doing any of this yourself, or taking a look at pictures of what River Smart Homes installations look like, you can find more information here at riversmarthomes.org. But I'm going to start with a background on the program. Maybe you've seen one of these signs walking around your neighborhood. Clean water starts here. These are signs that we use to promote the program. The number one way residents learn about River Smart is through word of mouth. So what is it? The River Smart Homes program is the district's residential stormwater management program, which means it is designed for residents to manage the stormwater that falls on their property or runs across their property, and how can they best manage it to prevent it from entering into the storm sewer system. So we offer incentives to both homeowners and residents. So you don't need to own your home. You can be a renter in participating in River Smart, as long as you have permission from the property owner to engage this program. We service residential properties that are 4 units or fewer, and we serve all 8 wards. There are no income restrictions or prior program engagement necessary for participating in River Smart. This is for every resident of the district, as long as you live in a building that's 4 units or fewer. And it's a program that offers incentives to reduce stormwater runoff from their property. So we heard from DC Water earlier this evening. DC Water gets that water once it enters into the storm sewer system, and they have to manage it. So the goal here with River Smart is how can we best manage that water before it leaves your property? Stormwater, you may know, is the water that strikes an impervious area and picks up pollutants along the way. So from your rooftop, you're getting roof shingles and debris. From your front yards, fertilizers, pet wastes, garbage and pollutants in the street. So the goal here is if we can reduce the volume of water that enters the storm sewer system, we can reduce the amount of pollution that ultimately ends up in our waterways. Participating in River Smart, the first thing you do is you apply for the program. You'll receive a stormwater assessment from someone like me, an environmental protection specialist, to determine your eligibility for financial and or technical assistance to install rain barrels, shade trees, and 2 types of native plant landscaping. We also offer rebates for the removal of impervious areas and replacing that either with vegetation or with a permeable pavement system. That rebate was previously available in Ward 4. Unfortunately, we've had to modify that rebate program, and now it's only available in what's called the municipal separate storm sewer system area. That's basically the outer thirds of DC. In the central third, in many parts of Ward 4, you fall into the combined sewer system area, and those properties are not eligible. But you do have some properties that are. We have installations, over 20,000 green installations on residential properties since 2008. So we're going strong here in our 16th year, or excuse me, our 16th year. So it's, as I mentioned, across all 8 wards. The issue of stormwater management is an issue across DC. So while we have areas that we want to target and highlight, truly every property can contribute to reducing stormwater and the load that polluted water has on our storm sewer infrastructure. So I mentioned why this is an issue, but here's an image of how we highlight this. Stormwater is running off of a driveway, an apron here in the bottom right corner, and you can see it running right down the storm sewer drain. Again, picking up everything it encounters along the way. Those pollutants are oil and gas. We saw those cars. They're fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides from folks that are trying to grow things as well as manage pests and weeds, pet waste, but simply sediment, water that moves fast enough to carve away dirt and soil is also damaging to our local waterways. So by reducing this overall volume, we're trying to cut down on all of those different kinds of pollution. We talked a little bit, or Joel mentioned a little bit about the urban heat island effect. Impervious surfaces are a big contributor to that heat island effect. And it has the impact for stormwater. Not only is it heating things up, but it prevents water from infiltrating into the ground. So I mentioned parking pads, I mentioned patios. Something we don't always think about are our very roofs are impervious areas, right? The water that falls on our heads in our homes ultimately gets directed and concentrated to our gutters and our downspouts. And once it comes out the downspout, it is stormwater, and it can cause damage along the way. Water is striking that impervious surface, the roofway, the sidewalk, the street. It picks up this sediment. If you ever see a discharge, this brown discharge that we have in this picture, this is an example of erosion. And DOEE wants to know about erosion that's coming off, especially off of construction sites or developments. But we want to know when sediment is being directed to the storm sewer system. So what does River Smart Homes offer to manage this stuff? You mentioned rain barrels, shade trees, and native plant landscapes, but what does that look like? We have two different sides to the River Smart Homes program. The first is a rebate component of the program, where you go through the process of identifying a rain barrel that you want on your house, or maybe you build one yourself, and you can apply to receive a rebate. The other side of the program is a partnership, where we pair residents with a nonprofit partner to install that practice for a one-time co-payment. So what you're looking at here is an example of one of the barrels that our nonprofit partner, the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, will install. There's a co-payment involved. The resident pays a one-time co-payment, $50. That gets you the barrel, the installation, and a complimentary soaker hose you can use to then empty that barrel out. And folks use this water for whatever they need water for, to water their lawns, to water their newly planted trees or landscapes, to wash their cars. At the end of the day, if you have a full rain barrel and you see there's a storm on the way, it's okay to open up that spigot. It's okay if that water enters into the storm sewer system. As long as it's not raining, the storm sewer system can manage 100 gallons here and 100 gallons there. The issue we experience is when it's raining, the entire city is contributing to the storm sewer system. That's when it gets overwhelmed. Rain gardens are perhaps our most effective stormwater management practice. These are engineered gardens that are designed to receive water from your downspout. The installer takes the downspout, they route it at least 10 feet away from the home into a bowl-shaped garden. They dig down a little bit. They engineer that soil with a sandy soil mixture that helps to improve stormwater infiltration, and they plant that up with water-loving native plants. And they come in a variety of sizes depending on how much water is being directed to your down your downspout and to the garden. Bayscapes are our word for Chesapeake Bay native landscaping. This is a 120 square foot native plant installation that we use to do things like replace grasses, stabilize slopes, anywhere we can use deeper rooted native plants to improve water infiltration, reducing that runoff, reducing that erosion of sediments into the storm sewer system. The co-payment for each of these gardens would be $100. You pay $100 and that would get you a garden design. Our nonprofit partner, the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, then covers the cost of plant material and installation. You're responsible for the maintenance of these gardens. These are your gardens once you pay your co-payment. That means watering the plants weekly, while they're getting established in your yard. And it means weeding the gardens to prevent the incursion of any non-native or invasive weeds that can outcompete our native plants, damaging the native plant habitat, damaging the native landscape, and eventually you may know, maybe some of you experienced this, non-native and invasive weeds jump property lines and they move onto the neighbor's house where they continue to damage landscapes. So it's important that if you have these installations done, that you're then tending to them and weeding them. To piggyback off of what Joel was talking about with the shade trees and the canopy goal of the district has a 40% canopy coverage goal that they're trying to achieve by 2032. You can't get there with planting alone. We need to preserve the large trees that we have, and Joel mentioned that we're doing that. This program, River Smart Homes, and the Shade Tree program through River Smart is one way we're trying to eliminate any barriers for residents to host trees on their property. So we partner with Casey Trees for this program. They keep a residential arborist on staff to consult with residents about shade trees and where to place them. And the co-payment for this program has been waived. So you can get as many shade trees as you'd like installed on your property free of charge to you. Joel mentioned that there are a variety of sizes to the trees that Urban Forestry Division and Casey Trees are planting. But of course, the goal is to get the biggest bang for the buck. We want to encourage residents to host trees that will outlive them and grow to be medium, large size, strong canopy trees. Part of the reason why you have that consultation is to make sure that you're putting the right tree in the right space. These are just some of the examples of shade trees that we plant regularly through the program. The impervious surface removal rebate is our only rebate-only component of the program. It is where the resident goes through the process of identifying the contractor, having the work done, and then applying to receive a rebate. A permeable pavement system is a replacement to a more traditional impervious area like a parking pad or a patio. The installer comes through, they tear out the old hardscape, the old patio, and they install permeable pavers. They dig down a minimum of 18 inches. They lay a gravel bed, a layer of large rocks, medium rocks, and crushed gravel. And over top of that, they lay these interlocking concrete pavers. You can see the pavers interlock together, so there's a 1/4 inch gap between them. That water strikes those pavers, slides over to the gap, and then down into that rocky chamber where it can get retained while it slowly infiltrates into the ground. A benefit to these paver systems, just like with the rain garden, you can tie your downspout into the paver system, and that retention area will hold on to that water for you like a bathtub, while it slowly drains into the soil. This is an example of how much stormwater is being retained per installation. I mentioned that rain gardens and permeable paver systems are running away with doing the most to manage stormwater. If you're looking for completed projects, you can find them in your neighborhood. Take a walk around. You can keep an eye out for those signs. But we've installed more than 7,000 rain barrels, 1,600 rain gardens, 3,000 bayscapes, and almost nearly 9,000 shade trees, and just about 700 permeable paver installations on residential properties. That equates to 7.2 million gallons that residents are keeping out of the sewer system and getting into the ground, restoring that groundwater table. So you can find more information. I've mentioned all this before. The steps to applying, I mentioned, you sign up, you submit an application, you have an assessment with someone like me. You get to schedule when that assessment is. Once the assessment's complete, we generate a report that declares your eligibility. You sign up for the project. You let your DOEE staff know that, hey, yeah, I want to get signed up for rain barrels, or I want to get signed up for shade trees, and you'll then have a consultation and an installation by that nonprofit partner. I want to also, if I may, highlight just how Ward 4 is impacted by this. So in the last, since 2009, more installations than any other ward have gone into Ward 4. That's in part due to the interest of Ward 4 residents. That's in part due to the types of housing, the single family homes, the yards that are available. There's room for things like shade trees. There's garden area that maybe could use a rain barrel, but Ward 4 residents are taking advantage of this program. These are numbers that we are actively working to learn more about and to target our outreach so that we can improve some of the participation in other wards. You can see in wards 1 and ward 6, these are very dense areas with row homes that oftentimes have completely paved backyards and very little room in their front yards. Sometimes green infrastructure like shade trees or native plant landscapes aren't a good fit for those types of properties. We're actively engaging in wards 7 and 8. We have an ambassador program where participants in wards 7 and 8 are working with DOEE staff to raise awareness around this program and get the word out. As I mentioned, word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about this program. Again, highlighting Ward 4 here, over the last, since 2009, there's those 6,000 installs. But another number I want to highlight is, more than 10%, 11.9% of the properties we get to are eligible for an installation. That's, Ward 5 is running away with it, but there's great opportunities for these installations in Ward 4. You're at the headwaters of Piney Branch, some areas the headwaters in the district of the Anacostia River. And on average, those residents that are receiving installations are getting more than 2 installations. They're getting a rain barrel and maybe 2 shade trees, or a rain garden and a rain barrel and a bayscape. So I want to say thank you to those that are participating, and I want to encourage you, if this is the first time you're learning about this program, to take advantage. This is an image of additional installations. These are the rain barrels. The other rain barrel model we offer with our nonprofit partner looks like this. It's an octagonal shaped barrel. Maybe you've seen it around your neighborhood. But with that, I think I am done talking about the program. Commissioner Palmer did ask that I share about what the mayor's proposed budget is going to mean for this program. And I've been advised that in terms of the funding, the Watershed Protection Division, where River Smart Homes is housed, is seeing budget decreases. The River Smart Homes program itself is expecting a 30% decrease in funding availability. That's going to directly impact our ability to install green infrastructure. The landscaping practices, the rain gardens and the bayscapes are primarily installed by women-owned or minority-owned businesses. Those are landscaping firms that partner with the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay to get these installations in the ground. And we will be doing fewer of those installations. So that will definitely impact our landscapers. We'll also, I mentioned the River Smart Ambassadors program as an outreach tool to engage residents in wards 7 and 8. with these proposed cuts, we'll also be pausing that program. We won't be able to pursue that program in FY25. So there's a consequence there too. That's all I have to say about the proposed budget cuts that I've seen.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? No? Okay, I believe Julie Lawson has her hand raised. Evan.
Hi, folks. Hi, Brendan. You need to go home. I have a question about properties where an audit was done some years ago, maybe by a prior owner, or you did it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but you didn't do all of the possible practices because of potential financial challenges or priorities. What's the process once you've already had a River Smart Homes audit to go back and get more practices on your property?
Thank you for that question, Julie. That's a great question. So the program is totally voluntary. Residents residents get the installations that they like. They leave the ones they don't. And very often residents will have this assessment, and maybe they're not ready to do an installation. There is no expiration to the report as long as there is no change to the property. So as long as there's been no major change to the property, then the property is still eligible for the installations that were recommended at the initial audit. We are now going back for residents that have that are applying, and they had maybe they're a new owner or a new resident, and it wasn't them that had the initial audit. We're inviting them to go through this process and have their property reassessed, especially if they don't have the old report. But we have those many of those reports. We don't have all of them. So if we don't have a report for an old assessment, an old audit that was done, we'll ask that we come out and we conduct the assessment again, and we can have this conversation about the program and the recommendations for the property.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Gilligan.
Yeah, I'm just curious of the thinking and the logic behind limiting it to properties with like the larger properties, apartment buildings. Why, in this case, why would that not be an option?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the management techniques that we have here are scaled to residential buildings, to single family homes or row homes. These barrels, for example, have a maximum capacity of roof area that we would recommend get directed to them. So the amount of water that they see in a rainstorm, there's an upper limit to that before the barrel doesn't fare well. With larger apartment buildings, they typically exceed the capacity of what we're able to offer in this application. It'll exceed the capacity of the barrels. It exceeds the capacity of the gardens that we're able to design. So that's one reason. Another reason is, especially with newer apartment buildings constructed, there are regulatory stormwater management features that have often gone into that new construction. So if it's new construction, there's already a management going on. This is really for retrofitting older housing stock that maybe is not otherwise needing to by regulation needing to manage that water.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. Don't see any more hands raised. Don't see any questions in the Q&A. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope this was something worth staying up for.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a few more items to go. We have the consent calendar. All of these items have been posted on our website for residents to review. As you're aware, we typically don't discuss these items. I'll read them and then we'll have a motion, I suppose. Resolution 4B 240401, supporting an application for special exception at 902 Butternut Street Northwest, BZA case number 21126, and noting presumption of support for personal use cases with non-articulable impact on neighbors. Commissioner Palmer, Brooks, Yates, and Smith. Next, Resolution 4B 240402, providing recommendations to the District Department of Transportation on scoring system to prioritize addressing sidewalk gaps. Commissioners Palmer, Brooks, Yates, and Smith. And then lastly, Resolution 4B 240403, noting the history of neglect and calling for dedicated maintenance of district land at the intersection of North Capitol Street, Kennedy Street, and New Hampshire Avenues Northwest. Commissioner Brooks, Palmer, Yates, and Smith. Is there a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented?
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's every hand. Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move on to Resolution 4B 240404, providing feedback on District Department of Transportation proposal for the intersection of Georgia Avenue, Alaska Avenue, and Calmia Road Northwest. The NOI is number 24821 TESD. Commissioner Brooks, Yates, Colson, Palmer, and Smith. Commissioner Palmer, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Chair Brooks. As mentioned, this is feedback on the District Department of Transportation's notice of intent for Georgia Avenue, Alaska Avenue, and Calmia Road Northwest. That's NOI 24-821-TESD. This is a pretty modest proposal to put in a dedicated left turn lane at the intersection, some roadway narrowing via paint and flex posts, crosswalk striping, which is quite important and should have been there long ago. We did have a discussion about this at the April 17th Vision Zero Committee meeting and talked about some of the challenges with a similar installation that took place at Georgia Avenue and Butternut Street Northwest in terms of the dedicated left turn lane and how there was a lot of confusion about that. And subsequently, there were additional flex posts and signage put in, so we flagged that for DDOT to consider. Talked about some additional locations that would benefit from flex posts, gave some feedback on turn signal timing, and asked for better mechanisms to address some of the chaotic turns off of Alaska Avenue. It's just a kind of a particularly weird intersection there. The resolution also notes that Georgia Avenue is set for bus priority consideration and that hopefully will be another opportunity for more meaningful and more permanent traffic calming at this spot. And I think that about summarizes it. I don't know if anyone else has anything they'd like to add.
I would just say that this notice is long overdue. This was identified as a priority intersection in the Rock Creek East livability study several years ago, and is being pulled off the shelf. And thank you, Commissioner Palmer, for your work on this resolution.
Just one other thing I would note, Chair Brooks, if that's okay, which is that this notice of intent included very little narrative description and just one kind of small, hard to read image. So part of what's asked for here is more detail in DDOT's notices of intent so that the commission and residents can better understand these proposals.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion, Commissioner Palmer?
I'm happy to move the resolution.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second, and I also just love that you called out that diagram. Is crazy that that would be a public notice, but
it's hard to read.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. all up in, was that everybody's hand? Can we do this one more time, please, so I can just see that? All in favor? All right, any opposition? Okay, you're in favor, Commissioner Cohen? Your hand was a little, okay, got it. All right, so then that's everyone. Thank you. The last resolution on the agenda is Resolution 4B 240405, providing clerical correction and reiterating support for the proposal 471 Kennedy Street Northwest and the application for zoning special exceptions, BZA case number 21103, Commissioner Brooks, Palmer, Yates, and Smith. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, there's been lots of conversation around what was a simple request for zoning relief. We had an additional special meeting at resident request in March. This proposal was reviewed and discussed in due course last year. We all voted for it last year. Because the case number changed, we have been required to revisit the resolution. And so we are here tonight to address the fact that the case number changed. And I am again asking for everyone to support the requested relief from the same presentations that we received last year and discussed last month. Does anyone have any question before I make a motion? Okay, then in that case, yes, Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, I would just like to express my support for this resolution and to note that this project came before the Housing Justice Committee, and it's a proposal supported in part because of the affordable and workforce housing provided. There was some commentary from some residents opposed to the project about how a building that is just housing would somehow worsen or promote crime. And I would note that I strongly disagree with that. And we have often said that housing is violence prevention, and we support housing as a mechanism for safe, stable, and secure communities. Thank you.
Yes, so in that case, I'll make a motion to, I will move to put the resolution forward. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's every hand. I didn't kept Commissioner Gilligan, did I see your hand?
I'm gonna abstain, Commissioner.
Okay. And then in that case, we have one abstention. I believe I saw every other hand, but I'll just ask to be safe. Is there any opposition? All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. With that, we can conclude this meeting. Everyone have a lovely evening. Oh, before we get off this call, I'd like to point out that next month's meeting is on a Tuesday. It is the Tuesday after Memorial Day. The fourth Monday in May is a holiday. And so our meeting will be held on the Tuesday, and it is listed at the bottom of this agenda. So the next meeting is Tuesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. and it will be virtual. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.